Tired of constantly looking for your kid's coat or your dog's leash? Today, I have an easy to print, easy to assemble solution for you. Today's project are these super adorable dragon and puppy coat or leash hangers. These are totally customizable and really fun to make. These are paid files by 3D Printable by Lucas and can be found on cults3d.com. Everything will be linked in the description below. I used a Bamboo X1 Carbon and an A1 Mini to print these. I used black and white PLA for most of the main pieces, and I used a red PLA to print the tongues. On some models, I chose to paint the tongue pink afterward, so that is also an option. So let's check out the build. Here are all of the printed pieces. So today I am going to be painting these really cute dragon and puppy coat hangers. This is a multi-step process. Today I'm going to do the painting, probably seal them with the Mod Podge, let them dry overnight, and then tomorrow I will come back and do all of the assembly. I think I'm going to start with the puppy first. So I am going to be using my usual apple barrel acrylic paints. I'm also going to be using the Army Painter war paints for some of my metallics on the dragon, and I will be using Mod Podge to seal my finished pieces. I think I'm going to start by painting this little guy's tongue pink. So I'm going to start with some white, and I'm going to mix a tiny amount of red apple into that to get a nice pink color. I'm going to let that piece dry, and since I have pink already, I'm going to start painting the dragon's gums. So I think I want to make this guy look a little bit like a dachshund, so I'm going to mix up some brown and give him some brown details. And a little bit on the inside of his ears here. Because this is a puppy, I'm not doing straight brush strokes because he's gonna have some fur. So I'm kind of dabbing it on. We'll go back in with some other shades of brown just to give it some depth. And hopefully he'll have sort of a fur look to him. So there's the base coat on his lower jaw, and I'm going to do some little eyebrows here. They kind of have circles. And I'm going to do some brown on his nose and around his mouth. Okay, I will let that dry. I'm going to do some brown on the inside of his ears. So there we have his little face and the inside of his ears. So now I want to give his brown color a little bit of depth. So I'm going to switch brushes here. I'm going to use one of my kind of beat up brushes that's a little frayed on the end because that'll give it a nice stippled look. And hopefully it'll look a little bit like a fur texture. So I'm going to add a little bit of orange to this brown color that I made before. And I'm going to start with the lower jaw since that is what I started with. So I'm going to tap it into my paint and tap it off on the side so I don't have a whole ton of it. And I'm just going to stipple this on. So that just adds some darkness and texture to the fur. So I'm going to continue to do that on the rest of the puppy. So now I'm going to mix some orange and the original darker brown together. And I'm going to do the same stippling effect with this color to add a little bit more depth. So that added a nice deeper orange, so it gives it a little more depth. Just in comparison, this is with the orange and that's without. So there's his little face. Just gonna add some to the inside of the ears. And there's the inside of his ears. I think I am gonna give this guy a red collar. I am going to start the puppy's eyes. I am going to give him brown eyes. So there's the brown of his eyes. I'm gonna let that dry and then we will do the pupils. In the meantime, I am going to start painting the dragon's horns. I'm gonna start by doing these ones in silver. And we're gonna come back to the puppy and do the pupils of his eyes. There are the pupils of his eyes. He of course needs a little decoration on his collar, so I'm gonna add a little dog bone here. And there we have a little dog bone. We are done with the puppy. I'm gonna let that dry for a while before I seal it with the Mod Podge. So we're gonna move on to the rest of the dragon. This bone color that I mixed up, the beige, is what I'm going to use for his teeth. And now I'm gonna start the arduous process of painting all of his spikes. I'm gonna use that same silver that I used on his other horns. Alright, and there we have his face spikes. I really like how the silver looks on this, it really pops. Now I'm gonna do the dragon's eyes. I'm gonna use my really tiny brush for this one because his eyes are kind of small. I'm gonna do the main part of his eyes green and then the slits I'll do in black. I'll let those dry before I do the pupils. And then I'm gonna start sealing the puppy. So I'm gonna use Mod Podge. This one is going to be matte. So the dog is all set. Before I seal his head and all the horns, I'm gonna do the black pupils of his eyes. And there are his eyes. I am going to seal up his horns and then I will do the top part of his head and then we're gonna let these dry. All of the pieces are gonna dry for 24 hours and then I will come back and do assembly. Okay, so these have been drying for 24 hours. They are not sticky anymore and we are ready for assembly. So I'm gonna start with the puppy because he's easier to assemble. First, we're going to put the tongue into the bottom of the mouth. Then there are these little bumps on each side that fit into a groove in the top of the head. And you slide his head on just like that. Then each of the ears has this nice little hook mechanism and they just snap right in. Like so. So when he bites down, his little ears pop up and he grabs on to the jacket. So in order to get that mechanism working, we need to put an elastic through these 2 holes on the back. I use these Goody ouchless elastics, and I use 2 of them in kind of a chain so that we get the right tension. So I'm going to start by tying a knot. Each of my elastics has a knot right in the middle, and I am going to put one of the loops through the other loop in the other one, and then I'm going to feed the other end of that same elastic through the loop so that they're attached together. Like so. Then each of these knots are going to go through one of the slots in the back of the dog's head. So you put the knot through the hole and slide it down so that it is rested behind the notch. Then you pull the elastic tight and feed the other knot through the hole in the lower part of the dog's head. He is ready for the bite action. So when you put a coat or a leash on his tongue, he bites down, and when you take it off, he lets go. No glue, just assembly. Let's move on to the dragon. So the dragon is going to require a little bit of glue. We have to put his horns on and his teeth. And for this, I'm just going to use regular super glue. Insert his lower teeth, and then on each side of his jaw here, we're going to put these little horn pieces. So these are directional, so you can't put them in on the wrong side. A little super glue on here. Attach his horn. There's one side. And there's the other side. So he now has his 2 base horns. Now we're gonna glue his top teeth in. And then we are going to glue his horns on. So this has a cutout on the edge that matches up exactly with the shape of his head, so you know how to line it up. So I'm gonna put some super glue on here. And line it up, and there he has his horns. This model also has the notches, so the top of his head will slide right on. So we're gonna put the tongue into the slot there, and then slide the top of his head on. Now we're going to do the elastic. So this one's a little bit different. The elastic attaches in the back of his head, and then it attaches here in his neck. And I'm gonna use the same elastics that I used for the puppy and do the same method. This one, I'm gonna use one of my little Cricut tools that I use to take supports off so that I can get this seated properly. It's a little bit of an awkward angle. And there we go. So now that elastic is seated, and when you put a coat on here, he bites down. When you take it off, he lets go. Totally cute. And here they are. They are super cute. They're easy to build, and I love the bite action. When you put the coat on here, the tongue presses down, it closes, and the little ears perk up. It's so cute. On the dragon, he just bites down. No other animation, but still really cute and sort of fierce. Here are my rankings for this project. Ease of printing, I'm gonna give this one a 10. These were super easy to print. You send it to the printer, it has minimal supports built in, and that's only on a few pieces. So there's really no post-processing on this one. I've printed several of these, and I've never had any issues where just sending it to the printer has caused any sort of failure. So this one is super easy to print. These will even print really well on an A1 mini if that's all you have, and you don't need an AMS system for these. Ease of assembly, I'm gonna give this one a 9. They are super easy to put together. They just snap and they all seat perfectly. The only tricky part is figuring out how to get the elastic seated in there properly and have the right tension so that it continues to open and close. So that part's a little tricky. But even that's not too bad. The beauty of these is that they are super customizable. You can print them in any color filaments you want. You can paint them however you want. This is even good if you have kids They can sit down, they can paint all the pieces and snap them together. You just might need to do the elastic for them. But they're really cute. I've done several versions. So I've got different puppies, like a St. Bernard kind of thing, Rottweilers, I have several Dalmatians. You can change the collar color, the collar design, paint the eyes, and you're all set. You can even take it straight off the printer, paint some eyes on there, and you're done. And you can customize the paint on the dragons as well. You can do bone, metallics. I also have red dragons and dual color dragons. They're super customizable, so you can make them look however you want. The bite action kind of makes it fun for the kids to actually hang up their coats, and you're secretly teaching them some responsibility. They attach to the wall by a single nail, or you can also use the picture hanging Velcro. I found that that works really well, and it won't damage your walls. Finished pieces of both types of coat hanger are available on my Etsy shop, which is linked in the description below. And I also have kits of just the printed pieces if you want to make and paint your own. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section below, and I will see you on the next one.